The 1980s gave us some of the brightest and most colorful cartoons ever made. But hidden beneath all the Saturday morning smiles were animated movies so dark, so strange, or so extreme that entire countries refused to show them. Some were pulled for their violence, others for their politics, and a few were so disturbing that even the censors didn't know where to begin. Today, we're counting down 12 animated movies from the 1980s that didn't just cross the line, they got banned, buried, or locked away. And if you're into the forgotten, the forbidden, and the films that studios hoped you'd never see, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. We've got plenty more stories waiting for you. All right, let's get into the cartoons that proved the 80s weren't all neon and happy endings. Number 12, The Black Cauldron, 1985. If Disney has a movie they'd rather forget, it's The Black Cauldron. Meant to be their bold step into darker fantasy, it ended up terrifying kids, outraging parents, and nearly killing the animation studio. On the surface, it's a simple tale. A farm boy named Taran, a princess ally, and a villain called the Horned King. But instead of charming adventure, audiences got grim castles, bubbling cauldrons, and skeleton armies rising from the dead. Test screenings were a disaster. Children cried, some even ran out of theaters, and executives cut 12 minutes of footage in panic. Even so, it still became Disney's first PG-rated cartoon. Parents complained that the studio behind Snow White had turned to horror, while critics dismissed it as a violent misstep. Disney buried the movie. It stayed off home video in the UK for years, some broadcasters refused to air it, and the company itself locked it away without promotion or merchandise. Yet over time, The Black Cauldron gained a cult following as Disney's one true brush with gothic fantasy. Ironically, its failure forced the studio to change course, a shift that set up the brighter hits of the Disney Renaissance. Number 11, Heavy Metal, 1981. Heavy Metal was nothing like the cartoons people expected in the early 80s. Based on the cult sci-fi magazine, it delivered a string of short animated stories full of aliens, warriors, violence, and sex, all backed by a rock soundtrack featuring Black Sabbath, Blue Oyster Cult, and Journey. It wasn't made for kids, it was an R-rated cartoon aimed squarely at adults. Censors didn't know what to do with it. Canada, which had co-produced the film, banned it. Ireland banned it too, and several South American countries refused to release it. In the US, theaters were hesitant, worried parents would complain if kids snuck in. TV stations wouldn't touch it, and the home video release was delayed for years thanks to both censorship concerns and soundtrack licensing issues. People dismissed the movie as juvenile and trashy, calling it little more than cartoon porn for stoners. But fans kept it alive. Midnight screenings sold out, bootlegs circulated, and the controversy only added to its reputation. Over time, Heavy Metal became a cult classic, remembered as the movie that proved animation could go all in on being adult, unapologetic, outrageous, and impossible to ignore. Number 10, Barefoot Gen, 1983. Barefoot Gen is one of the harshest war stories ever animated. Based on Keiji Nakazawa's manga about his own childhood in Hiroshima, it begins with Gen's ordinary life in 1945. Then the bomb falls, and the movie shows the aftermath in brutal detail. Bodies burning, skin melting, families trapped in flames. The imagery is so direct that even adults struggle to watch, which was exactly Nakazawa's point. He wanted people to see the reality of nuclear war, not a softened version. That honesty made the film controversial. In Japan, some conservatives attacked it for criticizing the emperor and wartime leaders, and schools pulled both the film and the manga from classrooms for being too graphic or too political. Abroad, screenings were equally uneasy. South Korea avoided showing it for years, while in the US, it only appeared in limited festival circuits with heavy warnings. The arguments didn't end there. Decades later, in 2013, a Japanese city removed the manga from school libraries, sparking nationwide protests. Number 9, Wicked City, 1987. Wicked City showed the world just how dark anime could go. On the surface, it looked like a sleek noir thriller about a human agent named Taki and his demon partner Maki keeping peace between humans and the black world. But instead of stylish detective drama, viewers got graphic violence, grotesque monsters, and horror that blindsided audiences outside Japan. In Japan, it was clearly labeled for adults, but overseas, censors scrambled. The UK cut out entire scenes of violence before approving release. Australia banned it. Several European countries refused to screen it at all. Even in the US, the first versions were heavily edited, with much of the notorious content stripped away. That only made the uncut film more infamous. Bootleg copies spread through anime clubs, and fans treated it like forbidden treasure. Over time, people began to see past the shock, praising its striking mix of noir style and horror. Number 8, The Plague Dogs, 1982. After Watership Down, director Martin Rosen went darker with The Plague Dogs. It follows Rolf and Snitter, two lab dogs who escape a research facility after brutal experiments, only to face starvation, fear, and a countryside convinced they carry the plague. From its opening, a drowning test, audiences knew this wasn't family viewing. In Britain, reactions split. Some saw it as a bold attack on animal cruelty, others as animated torture. In the US, distributors cut a scene implying the dogs fed on a corpse. Australia and New Zealand banned it outright, while parts of Europe refused classification altogether. The backlash even reached Parliament, fueling debates over cruelty in labs and whether animation should ever go this far. Yet over time, the film earned cult status. The restored uncut version resurfaced on home video, and fans came to see it as one of the bleakest, most powerful animated films of the decade. Proof that cartoons could devastate in ways live action never dared. Number 7. Grave of the Fireflies, 1988. Most Studio Ghibli films give you magic forests and playful spirits. Grave of the Fireflies gave audiences heartbreak. Directed by Isao Takahata, it tells the story of Seda and his little sister Setsuko trying to survive after their city is firebombed in wartime Japan. No miracles, no rescues, just starvation, sickness, and the slow collapse of 2 children left alone. When it premiered in Japan, people were stunned. To make matters worse, it was paired in theaters with the cheerful My Neighbor Totoro. Families walked in expecting a giant forest cat and walked out in tears. Abroad, the film faced even bigger hurdles. South Korea and Malaysia banned or delayed it. China avoided it for years, and in Japan, some conservatives complained it made the country look like a victim. In the West, the problem was emotional, not political. Some TV stations that tried to air it were swamped with angry calls from parents who assumed cartoon meant family-friendly. One U.S. network even put it in a children's slot by mistake and got immediate backlash. What made it controversial wasn't gore or shock value, but the relentless grief of watching 2 kids waste away. Over time, it's been hailed as one of the greatest war films ever made, animated or not. But it also carries a unique reputation, the masterpiece you only watch once because the sadness is almost too much to sit through twice. Number 6. Urotsuki Doji, Legend of the Overfiend, 1989. Few anime shocked the world like Urotsuki Doji, Legend of the Overfiend. Released in 1989, it mixed horror with explicit violence so extreme that censors didn't even know where to start. The story involves a prophecy about a super demon uniting humans, demons, and beasts, but the plot quickly fades behind its infamous imagery, tentacle monsters, assaults, and gore that pushed animation far past anything theaters had seen. The reaction was immediate. Britain refused to release it uncut, and sequels were banned outright. Australia, New Zealand, and much of Europe either banned it or demanded heavy edits. In the US, it never reached theaters at all, instead circulating as unrated VHS tapes that felt more like contraband. Critics tore it down, with Variety blasting it as a sci-fi horror schlock extravaganza verging on porno. Still, the very extremity that horrified officials gave it underground appeal. Bootleg copies spread at conventions, and fans whispered about its uncut version like it was forbidden treasure. Creator Toshio Maeda later claimed it was meant as satire, but its reputation stuck. For politicians and parents, it became proof of those disturbing Japanese cartoons. For cult audiences, it was a grim milestone. The moment anime crossed a line, the rest of the world wasn't ready for. Number 5. When the Wind Blows, 1986. Most cartoons leave you smiling. This one leaves you devastated. When the Wind Blows starts out looking gentle, almost cozy, with soft watercolor animation and a sweet elderly couple, Jim and Hilda, living quietly in the English countryside. But once a nuclear bomb falls, their optimism becomes heartbreaking. They follow government leaflets, building makeshift shelters and drinking tea, convinced they'll be fine. Instead, radiation slowly eats away at them, and the film forces you to watch their decline in painful detail. What made it so controversial wasn't gore or violence, but the message itself. In Britain, debates broke out about whether showing it on TV was even responsible. Some networks canceled planned broadcasts at the last second, worried it would terrify the public. In the US, distributors hesitated, afraid Cold War tensions made it too dangerous to release widely. And in the Soviet Union and its allies, it was outright banned, dismissed as Western propaganda designed to weaken confidence in nuclear defense. For those who did see it, the reaction was unforgettable. Viewers admitted they couldn't watch another war film for years. Some called it the most honest depiction of nuclear war ever made, precisely because it stripped away the fantasy of survival. And the soundtrack, with contributions from Roger Waters of Pink Floyd and David Bowie, only deepened the sense of despair. Over time, When the Wind Blows earned recognition as a masterpiece, but it's still remembered as the cartoon that ruins your day. Number 4. Violence Jack Harlem Bomber, 1986. Some anime pushed boundaries. Violence Jack Harlem Bomber obliterated them. Based on Go Nagai's notorious manga, this direct-to-video OVA dropped viewers into a post-apocalyptic Tokyo ripped apart by an earthquake where gangs ruled and survival meant brutality. At the center was Violence Jack himself, a towering anti-hero carving his way through the chaos with sheer savagery. The gore was relentless. Heads crushed, bodies torn apart, and scenes of violence that went far beyond what most audiences could handle. Even hardcore anime fans were shaken. In Japan, it skipped theaters and went straight to video, giving the creators room to unleash whatever they wanted. But once it spread overseas, censors came down hard. In the UK, it became a target during the late 80s video nasty crackdown, with tapes seized in police raids. Australia banned it entirely. Several European countries refused to even classify it, effectively making it illegal to sell or distribute. And yet, bans only made it more notorious. Bootleg copies traded hands in anime clubs with whispered warnings about just how extreme it was. Collectors hunted down uncut versions, and more than a few regretted pressing play. Today, Violence Jack Harlem Bomber is remembered less as entertainment and more as a test of endurance, a raw example of how far 1980s anime was willing to go and why so many censors were terrified of it. Number 3, Golgo 13, The Professional, 1983. If James Bond ever had an anime twin, it would be Golgo 13. This movie, based on the hit manga about a cold-blooded assassin, pushed boundaries from the start. It was also one of the first animated films to use CGI, helicopters flying through cities, bullets tearing across skylines, all cutting edge for 1983. The mix of slick digital shots and gritty noir visuals made it stand out instantly. But the story wasn't just about tech breakthroughs. Golgo's kills are shown in chilling detail, calculated, brutal, and without remorse. The movie also included nudity and explicit encounters, which guaranteed trouble with censors. Australia banned it outright. In the UK, entire sequences were sliced out before release. Even in the US, the VHS carried an R rating and trimmed content. For fans, those restrictions only fueled the film's reputation. Everyone wanted the uncut version, and word spread fast in anime circles. Critics were divided. Some dismissed it as pulp fantasy dressed up with new technology, while others argued it rivaled Hollywood thrillers in both scope and shock value. Number 2, Angel's Egg, 1985. Angel's Egg wasn't banned for gore or shock, it was banned for being too strange. Directed by Mamoru Oshii, the film follows a silent young girl carrying a giant egg through a ruined, waterlogged world, guided only by haunting religious imagery and surreal symbolism. With almost no dialogue, the story leaned heavily on Christian iconography, which unsettled censors. In Eastern Europe and South America, it was branded blasphemous, while in Japan, it played briefly before disappearing. For years, the only way to see it was through underground VHS copies. Viewers were split. Some dismissed it as meaningless, others praised it as a visual poem about faith and despair. Oshii himself admitted it reflected his own crisis of belief. Today, it's hailed as a surreal masterpiece. But in the 1980s, Angel's Egg was considered dangerous simply because it dared to question belief itself. Number 1, Akira, 1988. Nothing defined controversial anime in the 80s like Akira. Directed by Katsuhiro Otomo, it threw viewers into Neo-Tokyo, a city of biker gangs, corruption, and psychic experiments gone wrong. The climax, with Tetsuo mutating into a grotesque monster of flesh and machinery, was unlike anything animation had shown before. The artistry was groundbreaking, with thousands of hand-drawn frames that made every chase and explosion feel larger than life. But the violence, dismemberments, body horror, psychic meltdowns sent censors into overdrive. Germany and Norway cut scenes of gore, Australia slapped on restrictions, and in Southeast Asia, countries like Malaysia and Indonesia banned it outright. Even in the US and UK, broadcasts trimmed major sequences, sparking outrage from parents and politicians. Instead of burying it, the bans gave Akira mythic status. Fans hunted down uncut versions, and it quickly became the film that introduced much of the West to anime as serious, adult storytelling. Decades later, its influence can be seen in everything from The Matrix to Stranger Things. Back in 1988, though, it was simply the cartoon censors tried and failed to contain. These 12 movies didn't just cross the line, they got banned, buried, or cut to pieces along the way. So which one would you actually watch? Or wish you hadn't? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more forbidden films, forgotten gems, and nostalgic throwbacks just like this.